Support for studio sessions on KNKX comes from OB Credit Union, the original credit union of the Olympia Brewery, bringing pub-style banking to South Sound neighborhoods. OB Credit Union, offering Rainier, Pabst, Lone Star, and Olympia beer credit cards. More at obee.com/cards. From Studio X at the new KNKX Seattle studios, I'm Abe Beeson with a KNKX studio session performance with a pair of legends, Martin Taylor and Bireli Lagrene. The Englishman and the Frenchman are master guitarists who have both played with some of the greatest musicians in the world, including both with violinist Stefan Grappelli, whose hot club jazz with the legendary guitarist Django Reinhardt marked Europe's first great contribution to the American art form. Both men are versatile musicians, and their varied careers as bandleaders began around the same time in the late 70s. With more than 50 albums and countless awards between them, it's a little surprising that this is their first tour together. I asked them about working together finally, and perhaps making a record. But before we hear that conversation, here's Martin Taylor and Bireli Lagrene in our Studio X. When did you first become aware of each other? Martin, when did you first hear about Bireli and vice versa?
I first heard about Bireli from Stefan Grappelli when I was working with Stefan. I was 23, so I was this young kid. Then I was told about this 13-year-old guitar player, and I thought, oh, my time's numbered here. And I decided to either send out a contract to have him assassinated or become his friend. And we became friends, and we've been friends ever since. We don't get to play together that often, but yeah, we come from similar kind of background and musical background, so we have a lot in common.
To me, it feels like I always knew Martin, you know, because I was so young. My brain cannot really remember, but it feels like I always knew him, and it's a fabulous thing.
And actually, the first time I met Bireli was in a pub.
Oh, how about that? I remember that.
In London, and he was only 13. I don't know what he was doing there.
We had a jam session in there.
Yeah, there was a jam session. We used to go. They were friends of Stefan's that had this pub in London. Big jazz fans, and we went along, and I'd met Bireli's uncle before, and he said, my nephew come and play," and wow, we were just completely blown away, and he's been blowing us all away ever since, you know, with his amazing playing and musicianship. Bireli's a one-off, you know. There's no one like him. It puts me on my toes when I'm with him.
So why is it that you two haven't worked together more often? I suppose because you're both so busy.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. You know, we both go our way, but we're so. I mean, especially me. You know, I'm every time I'm so happy that I can play with Martin. You know, and the funny thing is we know for each other for so long. You know, it's almost like 40 years, and we are great friends, but we don't get the chance to play together, unfortunately, that much. You know,
It's kind of worked out well because my agent in the US is Brad Stewart at Dynamic Artists, started managing Bireli. They did some work before, so it just seemed really obvious that we did something together again. So we had to cross the pond to do it. But we're very happy to be here.
Now, you both, as I said, have worked with Stefan Grappelli in the hot club style, but you're more diverse guitarists than that. But I wonder if there's something that's, really great exercise and practice about learning in Django style, Bireli.
I don't really know. I rarely practice, to say the truth. I just play when I feel like it. Yeah. Sometimes I'm just have a guitar nearby, and when I walk by, I just thrum it with the finger. That's already it for the next 3 hours, you know.
Do you feel the same way, Martin? You're not a particular type of guitarist. You're just a guitarist?
Yeah. I mean, I come from a purely jazz background because my father was a jazz bass player. So I just grew up with, it was the language that I knew. When you start playing when you're very young, I wasn't, my brother he liked to listen to music, but he didn't want to play it. I wanted to be in there. I wanted to be participating in it. And when you start playing when you're so young, like Bireli and I, we can't really remember when we didn't mess around with some strings. There isn't a time really, so that we don't actually practice as such like that. You know, it's always going around in our minds. We kind of know what we want to do, but don't feel the need to actually to put so many hours in a day, because we've done that. We've done a lot of playing over the years, and the music gets inside you, and that's the way it should be. It should come from the inside, and I've always got music going on in my head and working out things. And then when I do pick up the guitar, I can go straight onto playing it.
So tell me about what you get out of playing with each other. I'm not sure if there's anything you're learning from each other, because you all are. You both are quite experienced. But tell me what you do learn from each other.
A lot of Martin's
licks.
Well, that's the first I heard about that. I just Bireli really pushes me, because basically I'm quite lazy, and I play things. I kind of stick with that, but then every so often I need a real push. And he's the person to do it, because Bireli will sit here and he'll just play some amazing things, just incredible musicality and command of the instrument. And I just go, "Oh, I'd better get my act together a bit here."
I think it's great because, and the most important thing also is to listen to each other, which Martin and I do, of course, a lot. Otherwise, it wouldn't make much sense if somebody would just noodle the thing around and, like, look what I can do and stuff. It's totally the opposite, actually.
Yeah, like we just played a tune there. We didn't. Bireli got into a groove there, and I went with it, and we created something out of that. So it's not rigid, If you have that and you play with somebody that right, we're going to play such and such a tune, I play it like this, and then they just play it. You can't do that when you play with somebody. Not with this music. Yeah, classical music. Yes, you've got to play it in a certain way. Right. But for us, it's once you start playing, you're creating, you're giving new life to old songs. A lot of the time, we play songs that are really old. Yeah. But like we just played something there that we've never played it like that before. Maybe never will again.
So often in reading about you two, you are both individually called undisputed greatest guitarist in jazz, which kind of makes me laugh. Because I imagine it's not a competition when you two to get together. Like,
there's nothing like that at all. It's all to do with the music. If you look at music, if you approach music in a competitive kind of way, you can tell it stops being music. Then it becomes the Olympics. Musical Olympics.
And Bireli, Martin and I have talked often about his education and how he was able to plow through the pandemic and still be able to do his online lessons. So I wonder how engaged you are with education and mentoring the next generation of guitarists.
Well, I keep myself as much posted as I can, because I'm always after younger guitar players, and it seems that like they're coming like out of the soil, because there's so many. It's amazing how many are out there nowadays, and it keeps our generation, safe, because there's still all these young guitar players who are going to come for the next years, and I think they're gonna, carry the flag, and I hope this is gonna last a long time.
Bireli did something very creative actually during that lockdown, because he got really into cooking, and now he's a very good cook, and that's become a passion. But there's actually a strong connection with making music and creating food and creating dishes, and I often use analogies with my students. If I can see they don't quite get something I'm trying to explain, a musical thing, then I'll just talk about it. Well, we've got the ingredients. These are the ingredients. We've got three things we're going to cook with. We've got melodic, harmonic, rhythmic. There are basic ingredients here. Now, how are we going to cook with those, and what do we need? Okay, if you put this interval in here, this thing, that's like a bit of chili in there, and that's a bit of, And I'm not very good at cooking, but I draw and paint, so it's the same kind of mind that can create music and create good food or create a painting or something.
Well, I'm glad you brought up food. It's one of the things that divides the two countries that you both are from. I think most people are familiar with the incredible French cuisine, but not so much with British food. It's thought of as perhaps lesser. Just one of the differences between two countries who have often had serious differences, but more often than not, it's more over a soccer game, perhaps. Could you tell me about the Englishman working with the Frenchman and vice versa?
Well, actually, we both have a connection because Bireli is gypsy, and my father's family are gypsy, so we both have this gypsy connection, heritage. But we kind of connect with it every so often. We just feel like we're brothers, But as far as food goes, food in the UK has got a lot better.
Bireli, could you talk a little bit about your family and how they raised you as a musician and how you're now part of a greater kind of family of musicians?
Oh, I got raised in a very normal way, but my father was a guitar player as well as my brother, who's 10 years older than I, and my great parents were musicians too on both sides. I would almost say it was a normal thing for me to become probably a musician and to pick up a guitar, because there was music at the house the whole time.
Now, recording-wise, Martin, it's been a while since you've put out a record. Anything in your plans?
I have an online Patreon site, so that's where I create most of my music. In fact, and film a lot of things. Because now we may as well film. This is a radio station, but we're still filming things here, so you may as well go ahead and film things. So I film everything I do in the studio, and some of the live things I do as well. Then I make them available to my patrons on the Martin Taylor Guitar Club, which is on Patreon. I've actually just recorded an album with my daughter-in-law, Alison Byrne. She's a fantastic jazz singer, very much in the sort of Ella Fitzgerald, Julie London, Peggy Lee style. And we were up in a beautiful studio up in the Catskills. It's actually where Norah Jones recorded Come Away With Me, in that studio, that very same studio. And it was David Bowie's favourite studio. He did a lot of his recordings there. So we've got a recording coming out at some point, but it'll be next year at some time. Yeah, I should probably start...
putting out a record together of duets.
We haven't got round to that yet, but we really should at some point.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, that would be a great thing to do. This is only our second night of the tour, and we'll start working things up and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'd certainly love to do that.
Absolutely.
Well, it would be wonderful if by the end of the tour you said, let's do one more gig in a studio and make a record. That would be really sweet.
We could probably do it very quick, because we just make this stuff up as we go along. So.
Right. Martin Taylor and Bireli Lagrene, thank you so much, both of you, for being here.
Thanks, Abe. It's really great to be back here.
Thanks so much to Martin Taylor and Bireli Lagrene, and feel free to share this session with your friends and discover many, many more at knkx.org and on our YouTube channel. Thanks to the KNKX team, Studio X audio engineer Brian Moynihan and video producer Parker Blome, and thanks to promotions director Brenda Goldstein-Young. I'm Abe Beeson. Thanks to you for listening.